Hello everyone, I'm Lara Piccolo. I'm a research fellow at the Knowledge Media Institute, KMI, at the Open University, and I'm presenting this work co-authored by Professor Harith Alani, also from KMI, and Pinelopi Troullinou from Trilateral Research. So this work, entitled Chatbots to Support Children in Coping with Online Threats, Socio-technical Requirements, was conducted as part of the Center for Policy Research and Learning at the Open University. So, as everybody knows very well by now, the pandemic has forced us to spend far more time online. And with children, it's not different. They really have to be online for learning, for socializing, for playing. And as a consequence, they not only spend more time, but we have even younger kids using social media and get involved with online activities. As a consequence of that, they are more exposed to online threats. And as UNICEF has called it, it's our duty to keep these children informed, engaged, and empowered to cope with these online threats because, as everybody else, they do need to be online now. So just to give an idea, in the UK, from 12 to 15 years old, most of the children, they own a smartphone, they are on social media, and more than 8% acknowledge having at least one harmful experience in the year. And we can see that even before the pandemic in 2019, the reports of online sexual abuse had already increased at almost 20%. So the situation must be really alarming now during the pandemic. So in this research, we look at chatbots or conversational agents, a technology that has already been applied to improve well-being and mental health and things like that. Whether this technology could help these children to cope with online threats and how. But we wanted to build this understanding from the children's perspective, to understand their motivations, their concerns, and translate that into socio-technical requirements. More towards the design, our research question was what are the main tasks they expected for this chatbot and how this dialogue should be structured. To make this happen, we recruited school children from primary and secondary school, aging from 11 to 17 years old. And we approached the school through an online safety charity that deliver online safety lessons at schools. So the participatory design activity was actually an extension of an online safety lesson. We had to put in place some safeguarding procedures to be prepared in the case of having an emotional distress, but we designed our methodology to not draw upon personal experience. We didn't want the kids to bring their past there, but we wanted them to be creative and play with the possibilities of what this chatbot could do. To do so, we use Lego minifigures. We rely on this association that most of us have between Lego and fun and role playing. And we asked them to create stories in group featuring a young person dealing with an online abuse. And this person needed to receive the support by a chatbot. And this chatbot was the robot that was part of the kit of minifigures they received. So every kit has the robot, and any other characters could be configured as they wished, and as the story was open to that. So as this figure illustrates here, we captured just the hands and the figures and nothing that could identify the children. So we collected data in different ways, not only through the performances. We had an initial survey just to understand how they perceive online safety, to understand where we were, the context. And we had a form that was quite important to review requirements, as we call it, requirements and reflections. It was an A3 form that they fill in groups. So along the process of conceiving the performance, they discussed when the chatbot could be helpful or not, what would put them off to use the chatbot, or what would attract them, things like that. So then we recorded the performance, and we had a final survey to collect their feelings towards the chatbot after they made this understanding of what this chatbot could be. We had 110 children participating, almost half primary and secondary school, in 3 schools. across 8 workshops that generated 22 videos. So this is an illustration of the classroom. So the number of participants in each group were really defined by the setup in the classrooms, and the performances were recorded in a different environment where the groups could be isolated from the noise, and we could capture just the hands. We analyzed the data looking at the chatbot's roles and how it should be designed. So different methods gave us different insights. In terms, for instance, the performance was really strong in terms of how the dialogue should be, the structure, if there were any difference between primary and secondary schools, who were the stakeholders that appear in the stories, and what sort of online abuse they were talking about. The form of reflection as requirements also brought personal circumstances when the chatbot could be helpful or not, how they expect it to behave, usability and technical features too. And the surveys were more towards their feelings and also about other stakeholders involved. So to structure all these results and transform it into socio-technical requirements, we relied on this framework, the semiotic framework by Stamper, which is part of a methodology called organizational semiotics, which splits the aspects of the information into technical and social. So we could put together the requirements from the platform and devices that would be more adequate for this chatbot, until the impact of these solutions to the user and to other stakeholders involved. So it was a framework very helpful to structure all these different nuances of our finds. So bringing a bit of these results in terms of perception, the chatbot was seen as someone to talk when you don't want to talk. So no judgment, no embarrassment, but as an opportunity to release stress and and to open their chest. So the participants clearly recognized that there is an ideal level of stress and severity when the chatbot could be useful. Things too critical should not be taken. And they expressed high expectations for performance. They expect the chatbot to be better than humans because of this lack of judgment. The chatbot was seen as an extension, as an entry point for online children's protection services that they know already. And they also showed that they have some fears of leakage of information, and that the technology, the chatbot could act without consent, for instance, contact the perpetrator. The participation of parents was quite interesting, was a bit controversial. In some stories, the chatbot was an alternative when the parents let the kids down because they didn't give attention to the matter or they didn't know what to do. But also for younger, especially younger kids, the parents could be using the chatbot together, and the chatbot would actually help them to assess the situation and make a decision about what to do. In terms of tasks, 4 main tasks were clearly expressed. So everything should start with the chatbot getting the user's trust, explaining how it works, explaining what information should be captured or not, stored or not, to then start assessing the situation, how critical it is, or what the steps that have been taken already, provide an adequate advice for further steps, but along this process, support the user emotionally to make sure that the person is feeling good while the dialogue is happening. So we captured this expected structure of the dialogue. It was kind of a pattern that appeared in the basic style for every part of the dialogue. We also created this conversation flow, which is the first step towards deploying this technology. As final remarks, the chatbot was clearly part of an articulated solution, was not a standalone solution, was part of existing protection service. And we worked in a context where children were educated on online safety and they were aware of this existing support, which for sure would be different in other scenarios. And we have to keep in mind that this technology should be complementary to a human support and not expecting to replace it, because we are dealing with very critical things, critical situations, and also with emotions. If you have any questions or suggestions, please, I'm happy to receive your contact. Thank you.